Yeah, I know. And trust me, it's been the shits. Guys, excuse me, but there's gonna be a lot of poo puns in this video. Guys, I've had diarrhea for the last 7 years. There you have it. And this is gonna be a short little series on how it all started 7 years ago through till now, where I'm at now. And it's also gonna be the story of my recovery to full, thriving, solid poop health. If you don't like hearing people talk about poo, then this might not be the video for you, because I'm going to try and be nice. And it's not going to be that intense, guys. Don't worry. But before I get into that, I guess I just want to share a little bit about why I'm making this video. It's a little different than my average video. With, they're usually beautiful with the cinematography and the drone and the beautiful colors and the cuts and the music. This is different. This is just gonna be me talking, no frills. Maybe in the part 2 or 3 that we'll have some frills. We'll add in some stuff. But for this, it's just gonna be raw me talking. And so why am I doing this? I guess because I just want to show up here on my channel and be as real as possible, be a little vulnerable, be just super transparent. Because I think it's so common to see people on whatever social media outlet just thriving, living their best life, traveling the world, super fit, freaking awesome, cool. And sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming and a little bit, it's easy to think to yourself, oh, it's cool, like they can do that because, they were just born with that or that gift, or they just have the knack. And I guess this is my attempt to show you guys that isn't always the case. I mean, I'm not going to say I have it that bad. For having the runs for 7 years, I actually feel pretty fortunate. Not that I've had it for 7 years, but considering. You guys watching this video years from now and you see my channel, you're like, wow, Aaron's this sexy motherfucker. He's traveling the world. He's in great physical shape. He does handstands and climbs mountains with his dog. And wow, what a dude. I bet he was just born freaking amazing. And I mean, we're all born freaking amazing. But there's been a big dip in my livelihood that started, 7 years ago, and it's kind of sunk to the point that it is now. And I'm going to share a little bit about this story in hopes that, one, it can inspire people watching that might think that they don't have the I don't know what I'm saying, or if it maybe helps anyone that's also on a journey with digestive struggles. So yeah, that's where we're at. So let's begin. This is part 1 from 7 years ago, how it started, how it's been, and up till now, where I'm basically sitting at what it could be considered rock bottom here in my sister's basement, needing to prioritize my health 100% above anything else right now. Besides rock bottom, it could also be seen as the new seed that's been planted, which is a lot of a nicer way to look at it. So, yeah, let's go back 7 years ago. All right, I booked a ticket to Thailand around this time 7 years ago. I wanted to become a freediving instructor. I booked like a course to become, it was called Zero to Hero. Maybe I'll throw up a freediving photo just to spice it up a bit. But before I went traveling, I thought, I have to get some travel. I can't say what I got. It's the thing you get for immunity against, I can't say that either. There's a lot of crazy censorship going on in the world right now, and free speech is not really being encouraged. So excuse me if I don't say what it's called, but I think you know what I'm talking about, given that it's 2021. So I got a couple of travel style ones, and then I also got one called MMR, measles, mumps, rubella, which I didn't piece together at the time, but it actually has connections, and there's people that have shown studies that it's related with gastrointestinal inflammation in some people. I didn't realize that at the time, but basically I got these things, and the next day I came down with a fever, and basically I just had the runs for 3 weeks. I was stuck in bed. I had the flu, too hot, too cold, kind of when you want more blankets and less blankets at the same time.
He needs more blankets and he needs less blankets.
I'm afraid you're right.
And I had to rebook my flight to Thailand a couple times. I ended up on the third ticket I booked, I was able to fly because it just kept lingering. Like I've never had the runs like that in my entire life. It was a good 2 solid weeks of just, straight through. And anyways, it got a little bit better eventually to the point where it wasn't miserable and my poops were a little bit more solid. I was like, okay, I'm recovering. So I finally utilized the last ticket I bought to go to Thailand. But I suppose I just didn't give my body enough of a chance to really heal. And upon, the plain food plus lack of sleep, and then going straight into Thailand where the bacteria is different, I ate way too much spicy food and drank copious amounts of alcohol, which is obviously not health food. And subsequently, the runs not only came back, but came back in full force. I knew where every bathroom was in every random hotel on the entire little island I was staying. And for 4 months, I just kind of lived with it. I thought, yeah, I just have the runs in Thailand, But then after those 4 months, I moved to Australia, which is a normal Western, mild country in the way that it's not exotic. I've traveled to New Zealand years before when I had good gut health and I was fine. Like, there's no reason you should travel to Australia and there's any problem. But upon landing in Australia, I thought my gut would just go back to normal because I wasn't in Thailand anymore, but it didn't. I feel like the 4 months and the 3 weeks prior that I had the runs initially basically just triggered something that was so damaged what was going on in here that it never really recovered. So for the last 7 years, I lived in Australia for a couple of years, in England for a couple of years. I've traveled around Southeast Asia and Europe. I've lived in Canada for small chunks here and there, India, all around the world. And I always just had the runs. If you've known me since 2014 in October, I had the runs when you knew me, and you might not have known that. And what's interesting, though, is it didn't really affect my lifestyle for the first 5 years, which is remarkable considering I was doing still some really heavy labor jobs, traveling a lot. I still had a fully fledged libido. I feel like I was pretty healthy, but then it was about 2 years ago that I completely crashed, and that's where a lot of the struggle really started, which makes sense. I was running full tilt for 5 years without proper adequate absorption of nutrients and stuff in my body. It's like I read somewhere that coffee doesn't give you energy. It just uses up energy that your body already has. And I feel like it's, where does that energy come from? And the energy I used for the 5 years, where was that coming from? Now, just to be fair, I can't say that this entire bout of the runs was all due to the thing that started it, because I think, to be fair, if I'd stayed in Canada for another month or two, I'm sure I would have fully recovered. But even so, if that caused me 6, 7, 8 weeks of 4 weeks of diarrhea followed by another 3 to 4 weeks of my gut healing, I still think that's reason enough to think that, I'm not going to get any more of those for a long time, especially not in 2021. But that's another topic. Anyways, so the last 2 years, I was living in Bali, and it was my birthday on December 4th a couple years ago, and I woke up one morning and my body just crashed. Honestly, I'm surprised it didn't crash earlier, but I was undergoing a lot of stress around relationships and villa renting and all this kind of stuff. And I woke up on my birthday and I just had no energy. And for the last 2 years, it's been a big struggle. Half of the days I've woken up in the last 2 years, it's been a struggle to even just get out of bed. There was a time for 2 months when it all first hit me that I just laid in bed all day for a good month or so. Barely with enough energy to even take my dog for a couple walks a day. And it's been a big struggle. I had to take the last month or so off work just because I need to really prioritize my health. And in those 2 years, I've tried a lot of stuff because obviously I was like, shit, I need to do something. So I got really into medical medium and then into like high carb health type diets. So like eating all fruit until the evening and then just having steamed veggies for dinner, like really basic, really high carb, low fat, low protein meals. And they all did help for sure, but nothing made like a lasting impact. There was a time in Bali where I basically just ate bananas for an entire month, bananas and some leafy greens, and that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it did really help and improve what was going on internally, but it never, when I started to integrate normal foods after, it just, it would always go back to normal being the runs. So yeah, overall, the last 2 years have kind of been the shits. And right now, I would say I'm probably as weak as I've ever been. My eyes are really sunken back in my head. My whole face just looks kind of skinny. It reminds me of my granny. My granny has eyes where it's like if you were a tiny man, you could like walk over the top of her eye. They're so sunken in.
If happy little bluebird fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why?
But I mean, she's 90. You know, it suits her. She's fine. I'm 28. You know, my eyes shouldn't look like this. Probably my lightest I weighed was about 58 kilograms, but I hired a health coach for the last couple of months and that's been helping a little bit as well. So I'm around like 61, 62 kilos right now, which is a little bit better. But even before the 2 years that I felt terrible, I can notice if I look back on like old Facebook photos that I can see my eyes and my face slowly starting to raisin even before the 2 years that I felt really bad. So yeah. So where I'm at now, basically in those 7 years, my gut's been the shits. I've had the runs, all the diarrhea, like one solid good girthy poop per month at best. So just try and like comprehend that. Lost my train of thought. But one thing I've noticed in that 7 years is that whenever I'm in Canada, my gut just seems to get a little bit better. Now, it's not like miracles happen. I've lived here for a good 6 or 7 months at a time in that 7 years. And it's not like everything was fixed. It was like very slowly progress was made. I don't know if it's the bacteria or the home-like environment or the maple syrup. It's probably partially the maple syrup. But whenever I was in any other countries, especially Bali, it almost felt like it was getting worse. So naturally, at the pinnacle of, basically, I'm at a point in my life where I just have no patience to live a mediocre existence anymore. For the last 2 years, I've been kind of scraping by, and there's no part of me left that desires scraping by. I just want to live fully and experience proper health where I can live my life like a normal human, and not just a normal human, but a thriving human. I want to have a libido. I haven't had sex in the last year because I just don't have any desire. My body is like, we're just focusing on getting out of bed in the morning. We have no excess energy for procreation. And that's fine. It's cool to have a time of celibacy. I think it's healthy for men at some point, but I'm ready to move back into life. So I'm back here in Canada. This is my third morning I woke up. I just flew back from Bali, which was really tough saying goodbye. Like I have a whole life there. I speak the language. Obviously, I speak the language in Canada too, but you know, it's more exciting and different over there. But saying goodbye to all my friends, I've had to say goodbye to my dog for the time being. And just the overall life I've created there, the villa, everything that I've made my life for the last 2 years. So it's been a bit, you know, it's been hard, but there's no worthier cause than taking the necessary steps to regain my full health, you know? I plan on living a long, happy, healthy life, and if it takes me 6 months, 1 year, 2 years to regain full, immaculate, strong health, then that's worth it because I got another 70 years left. So I'm okay with that. But yeah, guys, that's the story. A little surprise. Maybe not all of you guys knew that. If you're, in Bali, if you're a pretty girl that I was messaging in the last year that I never really made much of an effort in seeing you, this is why. It's not you, it's me. But I mean it. Usually that's not the case, but this time it is. That's the story. Now you know, and the seed is sprouting. Because the next video, part 2, is going to be me making some serious moves, talking about how I'm getting heaps better because there's nowhere to go from here but up. So, yeah, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Do whatever you want. And I'll see you in the next one. I love you. Mwah. Oh. It's not every day that you get to tell the world you've had diarrhea for 7 years. Not many people get to experience that pleasure.